Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 203rd iteration of the show, recorded on the 26th of July, 2016. My name is Josh Trelevin. With me, as always,
Laughing Ryan Kirkby.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey.
What's up?
Not too much. Busy week this week, though. I mean, there's been some pretty big things going on here. I don't know if everyone out there is as big a fan into the superhero movies as I am, but I was quite pleasantly surprised when, I think it was the San Diego Comic-Con, that, they released the trailer for the next, DC superhero movie. Justice League movie. No sign of Superman in it. Take from that what you want. But it does have the Batfleck, Ben Affleck as Batman, which even the detractors from Dawn of Justice said that's one of the best Batman Bruce Wayne combos. Some actors have made very great Bruce Wayne. Some actors have made very good Batmans. Not many people have made a great Batman and Bruce Wayne, like Ben Affleck does. Although I still say, for those who have watched the movie The Shadow, that the guy who played Lamont Cranston. I mean, that's basically like one of the inspirations for who became Batman. The Baldwin brothers, could have really done it like 20 years ago, guys. They were right there, but no, they dropped the ball on that one. But that's okay because Ben Affleck rocks out. He's in there. They've got the Aquaman, the Momoa guy. Momoa? Jason Momoa. Yeah. And they really need to project a very competent Aquaman from him. Because for the longest time, Aquaman has been seen as third tier, sort of superhero. Thanks mostly to the horrible injustices done in the Justice Friends, Super Friends cartoon.
Okay. Oh, just on the side note, is there an Aquaman movie already out? Or being
not
made?
Already
it's
out.
It's going to be before Justice League comes out?
I think it might wind up being after.
After? Okay. So this is going to be his screen debut as...
Apparently he made a cameo
character.
debut in Dawn of Justice sort of thing, due to some time travel stuff, which depends on how you want to look at it then. But they've got him, and it looks like they're really going to be able to, if nothing else, help start shaping the public image of Aquaman around as like a legitimately competent superhero.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all saw the image that they released of him, of Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and everybody was saying, "Oh, that's pretty awesome, Aquaman."
Well, that's the thing. It's like Aquaman stories have a certain King Arthur, Camelot sort of quality to that I think could really lend itself to a good big action movie. But you got to make people want to watch it first. So yeah, give him a little screen time here and there, and make certain that he gets his opportunity. Had Cyborg in there. This is more of DC's attempt to put Cyborg up in the highest tier of heroes. For the longest time, he'd been a Teen Titans tier hero, sort of thing, like sidekick level, even though he's not a sidekick to anyone. And I think DC has very rightfully realized that, one, their roster of characters is fairly monochromatic, and two, they really don't have that tech-based superhero in their core roster. And so I think it's like, well, this guy, fits...
Batman's not a tech-based superhero?
He's more of a gadget-based sort of thing. He doesn't wander around, in a bat armor.
Okay, he's not like a robot.
He can afford it. Yeah, he can afford apparently, a giant bat mech suit sort of thing if he wanted to, but he doesn't. I don't know. I think the official answer is that it doesn't allow him mobility or stealth to the degree he prefers. Yeah, he also seems to take a lot of bloody shots to the chest too, so I don't know about that. Maybe a little bit of a trade-off might help him out. But yeah, Cyborg is really that technology-based superhero. He's got the sonic fist cannon stuff, and he's got all the nice little hardware equipment that Batman just can't bring to the table with his Bat utility belt. It's got Wonder Woman in there. She's looking, pretty. Still a little thin and, I suppose, I won't say toneless, but she doesn't have the musculature I would have expected from the term Amazon. But, that's just me. Heck, you go back, you guys get the time. Go back, or at least, try and find some clips on YouTube of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the first X-Men movie. He was not as ripped as he has been in the latest couple of movies. His physique has really picked up, and really started to match the physical demands of Wolverine. So I'm going to give Wonder Woman a little bit more time to get that ripped style physique of showing muscles that, befits the traditional word of Amazon.
Okay, yeah.
So, plus, she still looks like she's going to give a decent performance. So even if she doesn't look the part of a fighter, it looks like she'll still, fill the role. Therefore,
well, we saw half a second of a picture of her.
I've seen some other stills and stuff that they're using there.
Stills, okay.
And I got to admit, she's showing good combat form in these stills.
So the costume's good. Okay.
So the only thing I have for an argument right now is I would kind of like to see a little bit more muscle mass and tone, on them. But, hey, she's not technically human. She's made from clay, right? She's not actually a human being, so I will grant a little leniency there, too. If they want to say, no, she doesn't need that huge jacked-up muscle mass because she's not technically human, she's just got better muscles than we do normally, I'll buy it for an answer. I'd have preferred otherwise, but I'll buy it. That's my silver medal level.
Well, I'll ask you this. Wonder Woman, she does not have super strength, though.
Yes, she does.
Oh, okay.
Yes. She's got super strength. Not exactly on par with Superman, but pretty darn close.
A superhuman strength, then. So
she very much has super strength, just not, at the highest tier of it.
So she is stronger than, imagine the strongest woman in the world.
Yes. Right
now. Wonder Woman's stronger than that.
By far.
By quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's already...
Orders of magnitude.
Yeah, we're already talking supernatural strength, so
yeah.
We're already beyond what, that a physique would indicate.
But yeah, I was still when I say a certain, sign man, that lady, she is Amazonian. What do you picture in your head?
The ones off of Futurama, really tall, pretty muscular, but.
That's the thing. I'm willing to ignore the height sort of thing. It's really hard to get tall people in Hollywood and make them look tall and all that without doing a lot of selective casting shots. I've been told about scenes where the leading man has to stand on a milk crate when he's next to the leading lady to make certain there's not that huge height difference between them. Mm-hmm. So height is something that Hollywood's been fighting with and against for absolutely forever. With maybe only, the Lord of the Rings movies truly having to take that into account because of stuff like hobbits and dwarves for size-based issues. Otherwise, it's just too much of a hassle. I can understand it. If it was an animated cartoon or CGI sort of thing all the way, then I'd be a little less forgiving. But this is real people's height. What are you going to do? Somehow act like you're 7 inches taller? So, I'll forgive the height completely on that. But, when you say Amazon, you expect a woman of some decent physical stature.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, they had an interesting version of the Flash. Personally, not as good as the TV Flash, which I love so dang dearly.
Right.
Even after how he ended the second season, I still like the TV Flash more. Yeah, third season's going to be ooh. Oh, it's going to be different. Going to be things he's got to deal with for repercussions and all that. But you know what? I kind of dig the character and the personality. As you said, we didn't see much more than about a minute of him, but he grew on me immediately. So what was your when you saw the Flash? What did you think? Seemed like a good guy. You'd want to see bits of him in a movie.
I don't know.
I do like how they portrayed his super speed by slowing down everything else. So when he sees that Batarang going by, he can process things at Flash speed. So the special effects for that seem to be pretty darn good.
It was a nice little surprising scene they gave him where he we've done this in D&D. I don't know how many times where we've, sort of introduced characters and be like, so do you want to join us? Well, I don't know. And then every once in a while it's like, yep, joining you. And then...
Yes, I do like that. He seems to prove himself as like the comedic character without being buffoonish comedian, which is like almost like a fallback for a lot of stuff. For those of you who haven't seen the trailer, Bruce Wayne basically tracks down the Flash and announces like there's a big bad guy coming. I need warriors to fight. And he's like, okay, don't say anymore. I'm in.
Yeah. And
his explanation for why he's in so easily and readily is he needs friends.
Yeah. And I guess it suits, I like how they're doing almost a poetic thing with the Flash is fast, therefore we get through, the Flash makes a Flash decision, sort of,
I hadn't even anticipated it from that sort of perspective, but I dig that. Why is the scene for the Flash showing up so short? It's the Flash. Figure it out yourself. Okay, I even dig that even more now. That's very nice.
We'll have to watch. We'll definitely have to watch this film and see what else we can catch on that level.
And that's the thing. From what I've seen about this, I'm much more invested in wanting to see this movie than at any point through the Dawn of Justice movie.
Mm.
And I won't lie, when they announced Batfleck as the Batman, I was pretty darn intrigued. I'm still waiting for it to hit the home video stuff so I can rent it from the library and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed the trailer, and this one, they seem to hit the right notes with me because I'm wanting to watch it now. Maybe even in the theaters. If they give me more trailers like this that show more good hype, I might catch it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I will have to watch the previous movies in the effective continuity, and I think I'm caught up, except for the Dawn of Justice one. So I think I'll be good. Yeah. What do you think, Josh? Did that hit right notes with you? Was that like a good trailer?
Was it a good trailer?
Yeah, it did. Because that's the thing. I mean, one of the biggest negative comments laid against the original Ghostbusters trailer for the reboot was that it was just a really poorly cut trailer. It was really a boring, classic, by the numbers sort of cut. And even Kevin Smith, his big thing was he wants the movie to do good, but his hopes don't get up so high when the trailer seems so boring and formulaic.
Okay.
So was this a good trailer for you? Did it spark an interest?
Well, I'm not a trailer expert. I don't know what makes
on a personal level, did it make you want to watch this movie? Did it make you intrigued? Do you want to follow a little bit more, look up some more information, find a release date?
I liked seeing all the different characters who I kind of already know, so that was kind of cool. It's like, oh, here's a movie where all these characters get together, and yeah, I actually kind of like those characters, and I like that they're getting together, and I kind of want to see what it looks like to see them work together. Ben Affleck did not excite me as Batman in this one.
He looked very much like a Bruce Wayne when he was Bruce Wayne, I'll say that.
Yeah, I'd say he looks like Bruce Wayne.
You tell me that guy's a billionaire industrialist, and you know what? I'll buy it. I hate to say it, but not every actor that's played Batman I could buy as billionaire industrialist.
My favorite part of I think my favorite part was just Aquaman's costume and look, basically. And they had a big wall of water splashing over him, so that looks kind of cool. Looked like some action was going to happen.
Also, I think he's a very dramatic sort of guy. Like I said, he's got his name is Arthur Curry, so he's like the king of Atlantis. He is literally King Arthur, and that's his stories are traditionally like an epic sort of King Arthur sort of vibe to them, and they really seem to finally realize what the heck Aquaman's all about. Not just he he talks with fish and commands them, and then gets captured every 20 minutes on Super Friends. Even when they're in the water and he should be in his domain, he still gets captured, man.
Wonder Woman had a cool kind of action pose, which I did like, but it also the way they frame that shot. She's sort of looking out past the camera, and it looks like she's in kind of from what I saw, I could totally have read this wrong, but she's in some kind of pit or sewer of some kind.
Oh.
And it's so
a pit of apocalypse, perhaps? An apocalypse pit?
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, man, the planet, of Apocalypse, they got horrible fire pits, and they got death battle pits. It's horrible. It's Apocalypse.
The planet Apocalypse has a lot of pits on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, horrible pits, death pits, torture pits. It's pit after pit of Like, forget your 7 rings of hell, man. It's just like pits aplenty over there.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them reaching into the core's planet, pumping out like big old flames, man. Size of like take Europe and then put a ring around it, and then bore into that ring until you hit the core of the Earth.
Bore like with a little bore, or a big bore?
I was kind of imagining like a cosmic corkscrew, popping out a cork.
So a corkscrew the size of Europe?
Well, pull out, like Europe is like we're a cork. I mean, like that's a
Apocalypse
has got pits like that big there that are just like shooting flames out.
How does it stay stable then?
It's in another dimension, so I assume some other like dimensional. Plus, it's generally regarded that in the DC universe, apocalyptic technology is considered the most advanced.
Okay, so they have technology. All right.
Yeah, I don't know, something that keeps the planet from just kind of like oozing out.
Well, I was gonna say I am curious, and maybe this is fine for a trailer to do, but I'm wondering what sort of enemies she was sort of posing and facing off against in that
definitely.
pit.
They showed a little bit what might hint as to this sort of danger, but they really didn't show much, and I kind of dig that because I hate a trailer that gives it all away.
Sure. Yeah. And which other character? Cyborg. I don't remember seeing anything. I mean, he's a cool robot. I like that.
I hate to say it, but the bit that got me the most about Cyborg was seeing his DC University, like jacket.
Okay.
Like his sports jacket, and it said DCU, and it's like, I want a jacket like that. Like, I'm not one to buy a sports jacket, but one with the DCU, sort of thing, in like university style logo. It's like, ooh, that's gonna sell like hotcakes. Also, it looked like a really good jacket too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it looked nice. It's like a, what do you call those? Frat jackets or?
Well, yeah, varsity sort of jackets.
University jacket, yeah.
Traditionally for sporty type people, but I imagine if they sell it with DCU on the side there, you're going to get a lot of nerds buying it. So take that, jocks. You don't own the varsity jacket anymore. Haha.
Okay. What other character? Did I miss any characters?
No, I believe that was all that was shown. I do find it interesting the complete lack of showing a Superman.
So okay, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg.
Yeah.
It's 5.
That's 5 out of what's traditionally considered a core 7 sort of group.
Okay.
Superman making one, and the Martian Manhunter also popping in there.
Okay.
I won't lie, Martian Manhunter does kind of have to rely on a lot of special effects. So if they bring him in later on, or maybe just towards the end of the movie sort of thing, is like a third act twist, I'll be okay with that.
You think that's too much money for them to make a whole movie about him, or?
At least without him being proven on the screen already to some degree.
Okay.
Might be a little difficult.
Have we seen him at all in any of the DC movies so far?
DC movies, no. However, he did make appearances in the Smallville TV series as well as the Supergirl TV series.
Okay.
Different people, different technical sub-universes of the DC universe.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well.
So, yeah, woo. I think it's just a pretty darn good trailer, all told. Better trailers than what I've seen coming out of the DC stuff in a long time.
I think I liked the Ghostbusters trailer more because there was actually gags in the Ghostbusters trailer.
The
from
second
what I
one I
remember.
liked more than the first one by far. But
I like when there's little jokes and things to laugh at. Although, yeah, the one we watched had that the Flash joke, which I think.
And
worked.
it did end off with Bruce Wayne mentioning to Aquaman, "I hear you can talk to fish."
Oh yeah, there's another joke for you.
So those nice little things to make sure it's not quite as grim and gritty as a lot of people have been blaming it for. Which admittedly at times it very much has been. But whatever. It's looking good. It looks like they're finally any injection of humor in there is going to be very well received, I think. Because humor always plays off better against a stark background, and the DC movies so far have been pretty darn stark. So, woo. So yeah, I think that's been the biggest news story this week.
Biggest for us, yeah.
fiction-based stuff. In other news, Pokemon Go continues to take over the planet.
So yeah, you got in on it, hey?
Well, my wife got the app sort of thing, and her and my daughter are really enjoying capturing Pokemon and all that. Zoe is just absolutely like digging it. Every time there's a new Pokemon, oh my God, look, we gotta do this, look at this, and what does it read for the Pokédex, Daddy? Meanwhile, I've taken over playing the role of manager. My wife and kid, I guess field agents, they go out and they capture the Pokemon. I'm analyzing which Pokemon are the better of the various types, and whether or not to evolve, or send off to the professor for more candy and whatnot, and what the moves do and how everything goes together. So I won't lie, I've been enjoying that. That is one of my more favorite aspects of a good RPG, is making those tactical decisions. This one's got less hit points, but better attack. So if we increase its combat value, it'll wind up having more hit points at the same point and having a better attack. Get rid of this one, even though it looks better right now. So, fun for me in my regards, and fun for my wife in her regards. And Zoe's just absolutely... It surprised me how quickly Zoe just went right on into this.
Mm-hmm.
And she's getting the names and all that, and her cousin has got it as well, and she was telling him, okay, this is Zubat, and it falls into Golbat, his mouth is up like this, and rah, 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 and she's explaining the whole thing to him. He already knows. He's like 3 times the level that my wife's character is. He's got all sorts of things.
Right.
But she's explaining, because as soon as you just tell her this information, bam, it's catching in her head, man. She is missing nothing on this. Although for some reason she doesn't pronounce it Snorlax. She just keeps pronouncing it Snores.
Okay.
Which is fine by me. If we catch a Snorlax, I guess that's his new nickname. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's not exactly a deep, complex game. You don't need a Pokemon to fight wild Pokemon. The only time you need a Pokemon is when you're trying to take over a gym. And my wife hasn't had a need to do that yet at all. So it's like, yeah.
You don't take over a gym. Can you lose Pokemons?
You cannot lose them, but you do effectively take them out of play for other areas by putting them into a gym and getting them trained up there.
Okay.
I've been told in some areas it's almost impossible to be training Pokemon, because they'll switch from one trainer group to another every 5-10 minutes. Manhattan is apparently bad for it. Tokyo is just absolutely ludicrous.
Right.
High population density, so many people playing it, so the more play that gets, the harder it is to keep.
Okay.
But from what I've seen of the game, it's really just the bare bones. This is just the skeleton of what's likely going to wind up being a bigger, more extensive game. There's going to be there's no way to combat your Pokemon versus someone else's unless it's at a gym. You can't just do it one-on-one. And so I could definitely see them adding that in there, having that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to do something about some of these gyms, because, as I say, if it switches every 5 minutes in some areas, you're not going to be getting the full experience that you want. But yeah, it's a nice bare bones game for just the Gen 1 creatures out here and there. And I think I'm going to call this just ground floor. It seems like there's a lot more that they're going to be doing with it from what I've poked around and looked at.
Okay.
So that's just my 2 cents worth. That's it. There's not much for instructions. I've talked to my coworkers at work, and they're having fun playing the game, and I'm like, oh yeah, so what sort of things are you using? What are you doing? How are you keeping your Pokemon? And they're like, what? They're just going around catching Pokemon. They're like, oh, I already got that one. I don't want to get more. So they don't realize that you trade off Pokemon to get candy, so you can increase the power of your current ones or evolve them. So it's ooh, I'm explaining stuff to everyone out there, man. I'm professor. I'm the professor for them. They don't have a quick set of instructions for how to play the game or what to do. I had to Google up is this extra large Pokemon better or worse than an extra small version of them? Turns out no one's quite certain yet, but there does seem to be some evidence that extra large Pokemon have a higher combat potential in the end, whereas small Pokemon are faster, so it's easier to dodge attacks.
Okay.
Which I guess makes sense. But yeah, I had to look this up. There's not a booklet that comes with it. So whatever, having fun.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, the 2 big stories that are going out for fiction. There have been big stories this week, don't get me wrong. but they actually are about things that happened. So we're not going to cover them.
Okay.
Because, like that's not our niche.
Good. I'm glad we figured that out after episode 203.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there are some stories in the real world that seg into, like fantasy-related topics. But
we can do it, but yeah. Okay. We're going to cover some other things.
This week. What have you been doing this week, Josh? In realms of things that didn't actually happen.
Shall we talk about what I've been doing?
Let's keep to our forte.
I'll talk about a couple of movies I watched.
Right.
I watched Being John Malkovich.
Not exactly a new movie, but a very good movie by, I think, almost every critic.
I liked it. I thought it was very funny and very, creative. I don't know how many spoilers I should give.
Oh, well, I think, even the trailers gave away the concept. Is there is a door. If you go through it and walk down the hallway, you enter into John Malkovich's head. The renowned actor and... wait, is he the father of Angelina Jolie?
I have no idea.
I think he is. But yeah, renowned actor John Malkovich, and you get to control him, right? Okay. Do you control him, or go through the door? Do you just have sway? Do you just walk?
Okay, spoiler alert: if you are going to watch Being John Malkovich in the future, and you haven't already, skip ahead. I don't know, 5 minutes, give or take. We'll say.
Listen, then maybe skip ahead another 5.
And if we're still talking about it, skip ahead again. So you can control John Malkovich if you practice, if you get good at it. And our main character, I wouldn't call him a hero. he's kind of
going into somebody else's head and controlling his actions. That's very much not a hero by any standards.
But he's the guy we follow anyways, I guess.
The protagonist.
Yeah, he's our protagonist. He's not a good guy, but for lack of a better word. He is in real life, or in his life, he is a puppeteer.
Oh.
So this is his special skill, is why he gets to be good at controlling John Malkovich, is because he has this ability.
A string.
Yeah, he's good at that. So he catches on real quick. Apparently anybody can eventually learn, but he picks it up quicker, and he has the initiative, I guess, to actually give it a try. Rather than most people just sort of sit there and watch and just see what John Malkovich does.
So does John Malkovich know when someone's in his head?
Well, he knows when he starts doing something weird. He can't feel somebody in his head like that. No.
Oh, it feels like there's already another person in here right now.
But if the person makes him do something weird, he knows that it wasn't him that did it. Like makes him yell or do something. Yeah.
Oh. So he knows it's not him, so he's not worried about, am I going insane? Why did I just yell?
Well, that's what he thinks. He says he thinks he's going insane after a while, yeah. Because he's saying stuff that he doesn't want to say, and he's going places and doing things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And eventually our main character, again, spoilers, just takes over John Malkovich completely and just runs his life now, from inside his head, and changes his career to become a puppeteer. I'm basically giving away the movie because that's, but yeah, and then he switches careers from being this famous actor to this famous puppeteer.
It strikes me as this is the way you could do with a lot of various people and do some sort of fictional biography sort of thing. Why did Elvis change so much between young Elvis and old Elvis? We'll watch the movie Being Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
This could be an entire series of movies that really shows off the nature of a person throughout his life, and you could have a lot of fun with that.
Yep, yeah, indeed. It's like that. So I liked it as just as me, because I like the idea of simulations and getting inside a head and turning this into some kind of game where they become John Malkovich. So I think it's plays with the idea of identity and.
Now, could you see this as an analogy for you have pre-made characters and you think they're awesome, and then someone comes in and they start playing them and it's no, you're playing them all wrong.
I didn't think of that before. I don't know. Maybe.
So if you've ever created a bunch of pre-made characters for a story and the players wind up playing them completely wrong. It's no, and you want to vent out and watch Being John Malkovich?
I have not had that experience myself. I can imagine.
Well, how often do you do pre-made characters for an adventure?
Well, I've done it a couple times now, the last 2 Roll for Initiatives, and
Well, those are fairly good people that roll for initiative.
I guess
You don't
they're
have to
good
worry about
players,
that.
yeah.
There have been times, I remember a few sort of thing where everyone makes a player. Every player makes a character, and then it's like you move it, the characters to the left. So everyone cycles around. So that way you're playing something you weren't initially expecting.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, no, my rogue would never do that. Why would my rogue charge into battle? Well, I was supposed to play a fighter, but you're not.
Wow.
Dave's the fighter.
Sounds like a horrible group. All complaining.
Well, sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you want to break a person out of a rut for, they always play the same kind of character, it's a nice way of, throwing a wrench in there. Why is my fighter running away from combat? So I don't want to get into combat. You've got the highest AC, you've got armor and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Get in there. No, I don't want to. Fun times.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, how would you rate Being John Malkovich?
Oh, I think I give it 13 out of 13 dwarves. Yeah. 100%.
If for no other reason, I suppose that it's not like it's a movie that you're going to see like a dozen times, like retold.
Yeah, I won't see it again, but I definitely give it...
Well, it's like, how often are you going to see a movie where that's the general premise? I mean, like romantic comedy sort of things. It's like, guy falls in love with girl in New York City. It's been done.
Yeah.
How often do you get, guy finds a doorway into, a celebrity's head? Not exactly a common plot.
Yeah, not all the time. So, I give it all the marks because of basically originality. And, I mean, there are moments in the movie where I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. But basically, they usually cover those up with gags or whatever, so I'm like, I don't care because it's just funny.
Funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rate, what is it, like a psychological horror or comedy?
Well, I mean,
What's the genre, man?
I definitely call it a comedy myself, but there are disturbing elements. I can imagine some people would be disturbed, but basically I was just laughing the whole way through. And genuinely, not like laughing at it, but genuinely like laughing with what they're intending as their, as they're I'm supposed to laugh at.
You were laughing along with, not laughing in the face of.
Yeah. Not like there are some horror movies where I guess you sometimes laugh at.
There's some romantic comedies where you have to laugh at, otherwise you'll be groaning in disgust at how badly written the stuff is.
Yeah. I also wanted to briefly mention I watched Harmonquest. I won't say how, but I managed to get a hold of a couple of the episodes. And
Josh knows a guy who knows a guy who knows the website.
Well, yeah, the other thing is, I'm not an expert torrenter, and it wasn't hard for me. So, I won't say anything more about how I got it, but I did watch Harmonquest.
Oh, okay. How was it?
It was very funny. It was very good. Starring our Dan Harmon, who made Community. Our Dan Harmon, who made Nerds. Yeah.
Dan Harmon of the Nerds.
Yeah, he made Community. He does a podcast, Harmon Town, which
a series you might have heard, Rick and Morty. Season 3 started up again just this last week.
Oh yeah, that's another bit of news. But I guess we didn't watch that.
I was unable
episode,
to for various reasons.
Yeah, Harmonquest. I think they filmed it back like about I want to say like a year ago. So it was Dan was like. He was married to a different person back then. Since he got a divorce and like has a new
life has
partner.
Gone on.
Yeah, life has moved on. So it was a bit weird to go and see this thing with Dan and his ex-wife in it. But they're having fun in it. So
Harmonquest wasn't the reason for the divorce, was it? Because boy, that could take a dark turn.
Doesn't appear to
First
be.
4 episodes, everything's all hunky-dory, and then the next 4 episodes after that, it's just them arguing while everyone looks around uncomfortably.
They do argue a little bit, but I think that was always kind of their thing.
It's tabletop. I've had family and friends, and we both had to argue back and forth various points about what to do and how to go.
Yeah, but you know how couples can sometimes get, even like they turn a thing that's everybody's having fun and then they have their little fight in the middle of it. So yeah, but I mean, in some ways it's sort of it's with a wink at the same time, because these are two people who are writers themselves and very creative people and interested in drama. So yeah, they know what they're doing when they're taking over the table for a couple of seconds to be like, we're airing out our relationship stuff. But so it's I don't feel like they're intruding on people as much as just sort of like winking and saying, this is what couples do. Like, yeah, that is.
Very nice.
And there's always a guest star. The episodes are like 25 minutes long, so they're easily digestible. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon. They're animated cartoons for adults, basically.
So what you're saying is, if I have 25 minutes to spare and a bowl of cereal in my hand,
yeah,
I should find an episode of Harmonquest.
I think you could do worse, yeah.
All right.
Is that a compliment? It could do worse.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I got cable TV. Mm-hmm. I got all sorts of crazy little things to watch.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's another one of these shows where people play D&D. We got now, like nowadays, I mean, we got so many of these now, but
I think we got like a dozen of them I can just think of off the last 4 years.
Fine with that. I'll take as many as I can get at this point.
Each one, though, is a little bit different from the last. You know, each one has their own little specific style and a forte.
Yeah, it's true. What is Harmonquest's thing? It's very funny. They're not expert players. They don't like, you know, they don't role play it up or anything like that. They're pretty low key, like ironic type people just playing a game that's kind of fun to them, but also they're kind of making fun of it at the same time. But
D&D is a long history of making fun of itself, so don't worry about that they're being like picking on it.
Yeah, and sometimes that bothers me, but in this case, like, I just find it funny.
Do you want me to get my Encyclopedia Dramatica out and all that, and look up some of the stuff that D&D's done to make fun of itself?
You have an Encyclopedia Dramatica?
Well, I get my netbook and bring
on the computer. Okay. I thought you had like a printed out version.
No, God, that thing is like cancer for half of its pages at least. Or I suppose, if you want, we could play this nice and at least as clean and easy as possible. I could get my Encyclopedia Magica out, and I could show you the entry for the violins. D&D has actually published, out back in the day, Saxon violins, the most rare and impossible to find magic item in D&D, because no matter how hard you search, you will never find Saxon violins.
You don't have to take it out. I think I get the gist of it.
Yeah. Like I'll show you. It's not like just me making up a bad joke.
Oh, I see.
That's something they actually published as one of their silly little bad jokes. So it's not like D&D hasn't had a history of making fun of itself, and it's like all sorts of little aspects here and there. I have the Nexus Tree Sword Massacre thing saved up, in like a bookmark there. It's a thing. They have fun. It's goofy. So yeah, like anyone who says like they weren't taking D&D seriously, they can get off their high horse. D&D has never always taken itself completely seriously either.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and also one other movie I watched. I'm going to quickly mention. It's called Marwencol. It is a documentary about an artist. So I guess not really fiction, but I'll tell you. You'll figure out why in a second. It is an artist who lives in upstate New York City who does
upstate New York or New York City?
Oh, sorry, did I say upstate New York?
You said upstate New York City.
Okay. Yeah, that was a slip of the tongue.
Is it the city, the county, or the state of New York?
Upstate New York.
Okay, good.
State.
Very
the state of
confusion apparently now.
What he does is his medium of choice is dolls, and he poses them, and he makes scenes out of them and stuff. And he dresses.
Not unheard of. I mean, Toy Fair magazine was doing little things like that for a long time, but apparently he ups the ante by not just like posing them and having things happen. What does he do?
He has his own ante. I suppose there are people who do more elaborate doll scenes or dioramas or whatever, and he photographs them and he displays them, and he's he's an artist. Like people know him now for this. But
he's that doll guy.
Yeah. But like the way he gets started, like the documentary sort of tells his story, and the way he gets started, he just does it. Like that's just his pastime. He doesn't think of it as, oh, I'm doing art with dolls. He's just playing with dolls, I suppose,
and recording it in the process instead of getting mocked. He's an artist.
The other thing, though, is also according to this documentary, which I recommend seeing, Marwencol, he at first he's just taking pictures of it, just not even as art or like whatever, just for something else to do. And so like another photographer came along and saw what he was doing and like saw that he was just almost compulsively taking pictures, like just not really thinking about the art of it, but just and so basically he what he does is he invents this fictional town, tells stories about it. It's a town set in Belgium during the 1940s, during the Nazi occupation. And then he has like all these adventures that the people go, like the doll people have all these adventures, like some violent, some less violent. He has a bar that's in the town that they all go hang out at. And he puts himself and the people that he knows in real life, he creates dolls of them, but then they become characters within that town. So he like kind of duplicates his life. It's like this mirror on his own life, but it's this weird like it's something you see kids doing, and one other point I'll make about what happened. I'm basically telling you the whole documentary. So, but one of the reason why he started doing this was he used to be a comic book type artist, and then he had some people beat him up like in a bar.
Well, he didn't have people beat him up. It's not like he said, "Hey guys, I need 5 of you. I got $50. How'd you like all to make $10 and beat the crud out of me?"
Well, they just decided to. Yeah.
They did it pro bono. They didn't even bother asking.
They were jerks.
Yeah.
And they beat him up, and they gave him a pretty bad head injury, preventing him from being able to draw. So this was now his recovery. And he lost some memory and stuff and other functions. So he's not, functioning at a, perfect level anymore.
So and this is like was this did he get justice enacted upon them for this? Is this how he was able to make his living before the other artist realized hey, this is artwork you're doing? Like how did he manage to pay the bills when he was just playing around with his dolls?
It appears during the time of the filming of the documentary that was still in process. But they did, they know who the guys are. The police, took them in and prosecuted them, everything like that. In the States, I think you can also sue if somebody there's one process for criminal activity, but then there's another
civil court.
Yeah, you can also sue them in civil court. So I think that was what was happening during the course of the filming of the thing. But I guess they can't necessarily put too much of that in the documentary because some of that stuff is
before the courts.
Yeah, in front of the courts. So it's kind of alluded to, but it's not really explained. But that's what
how was he paying the bills playing with dolls?
I guess I don't know what he had for savings. They don't mention that either. But he is, he's got family and stuff and friends who are around. He had a roommate before, and so he kept the same roommate for a while. And then I think he moved to a different place, but maybe a smaller place. I don't know.
Okay, just curious because it suddenly occurred to me. It's like this guy, is apparently living his dream of putting the dolls up in this city he's created for himself during World War II, and how come I can't afford to do that sort of stuff? What am I doing wrong with my life?
Yeah, well, and I don't know how he in the immediate how do you. Because he was in the hospital for, I don't know,
American hospital, too. Let's note this. For those out there in America, the rest of the world works a little differently.
He was
you don't get paid through the, you have to pay, for everything.
He was in a coma for a long time. He was in the hospital, and he was in recovery for several months. So just that alone, you can't work and stuff. So I don't know how he got through just that by itself. Maybe he got help from family, or I'm sure he had some savings,
charities and foundations and whatnot.
Possibly, yeah. But of course, the story of the movie brings us to the time when he's sort of, I guess, discovered, or whatever you want to call it, and then he brings his prints and artwork to the city, to New York City, and then I'm sure he's fine now because he's been able to, like, this documentary's been made about him, and he's been able to, you know,
I won't
sell.
lie, he does sound like a very fascinating individual, and that's kind of what I want for a topic of, documentary.
Yeah.
So,
And he sold pictures of his, of his little town, and so I think it's a happy ending. So yeah,
could be happier. I would like to see some sort of like publisher, like get an editor and try and like work it all up together and have like the story be told of what's going on in his little city.
Oh yeah, like in an actual, like almost a graphic novel
sort of
with photographs. Yeah, I think that.
Well, I guess it'd be semi-graphic novel. You'd have the images, and then you'd have something like written underneath as to what's going on with the characters and all that.
Yeah.
With a decent writer, sort of thing to punch things up and really make it dramatic, I think you could have a very interesting combination of images and words to create a very compelling story about what the heck's going on.
Well, you could, and I would maybe I'll look into it and see if there's a link I can put in the show notes and see where he actually is on the, like, see what direction he took it. I suspect getting another writer involved, I suspect he might not like that because he was pretty protective about his story and he felt like it was his.
Well, if he's busy doing like his stuff there, and all he has to do is like tell what happened, and then you got to get like just a nice writer to make it nice and snappy, effectively a ghost writer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there are people that make apparently very adequate lives being ghostwriters. Their names never publishing up in print.
Yeah.
Just, like writing stuff down and clarifying and doing the nice little editing stuff.
That could probably work for most people, but like in this particular case, having seen his personality on the screen, I'm not sure if he would go for it. But
fair enough.
Because he was pretty reluctant just to even go to New York City, just the big city, which is, I mean, fortunately not that far away from him, a couple hours drive, I guess. But it was still a pretty big deal for him, and he almost didn't go through with it because he was scared of sharing this thing with anybody else. Because that's the thing, and that's a weird thing about art. Like anytime I make art, I always think about like who else I'm really excited about showing this to somebody at some point. I mean, maybe not right away. Maybe I feel like, it's not ready yet. But
maybe he's got the truest sense of art, in that it's not about what other people think. He's making it because he wants to. It's the purest expression of it. He has something he wants to do, and he brings it on out. And if other people like it, well, I guess that's just like an extra bonus for him.
Well, I can say I definitely appreciate that about him, and I think that there's something admirable about that. I wouldn't say it's more pure art than the art that wants to be seen, because I think that's an important aspect.
Commercial aspect to his art.
Yeah, but I'm fine with commerce, art and commerce. I'm okay with that. But maybe that's just me.
Oh, so am I. There's been some very nice commercial art out there, and all that. And people that paint so that you can sell a painting for a decent amount of money and keep doing what they really love, painting. Mm-hmm. But with him, it's so pure. I mean, there's not even like a price tags or numbers or any of that factored in. It's just like he's got something that needs to be expressed, and he's expressing it.
I mean, yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying. I don't know if I would say it makes
I've written stuff that I don't think anyone will ever wind up seeing unless someone's like browsing on my computer post mortem. And like if someone reads it and enjoys it, well, hey, I guess that's pretty awesome. But there were times I just wanted to write something else. Like, hey, I think this is something I want to do, so I did it. And so I can sense with him like something similar from what you're describing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we've conveyed something back and forth here. I don't know about art. Yeah.
Well, art's a weird thing because it means it's different for different people. So it's nice to try and hit that shared wavelength to understand.
Yeah, and what I appreciate about it is that this is definitely not how I approach art normally, but I like being exposed to another perspective, another way of, you could just do it just because you felt like it and not actually be doing it for an audience, and that's fine. That's allowed. That's a legitimate way of doing art.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean completely screws with any time anyone tries to define art. Well, what is art? Well, art is something intentionally designed to provoke a response in another person. Well,
not
maybe
really.
not.
No, yeah.
So that brings us back to square one about defining art. We can't. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people have lost a lot of cred amongst different groups by trying to define what art was and saying this isn't art. Like video games, I think Siskel Ebert got a lot of flack by when he said that video games weren't art.
Yeah.
I won't say he was right. I won't say he was wrong. But there was a lot of flack because some people saw this stuff is like art. It just has a higher barrier for entry because you got to be good at it. You can't be, bad at looking at a painting and then just not be allowed to see the rest of the artwork by, the artist. But, if you can't, pass this level on a video game, you're never going to see the next level. So it is a little weirder that way. So yeah, art's got this weird, seven-headed, like dragon sort of monstrousness where you can't just say it's that head there. It's like, no, man, it's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Cool. That's
beautiful.
That basically covers my week in simulations, pretty much.
As for me this week, I watched that Fantastic Four remake movie, the Fan Four Stick, where they substitute one of the A's for the letter for the number 4.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's loud.
Yeah. Have they do it with O and cereal all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the movie would have been better and better received if it wasn't a Fantastic Four movie. I remember watching it, I'm thinking to myself, this is not a bad movie, but it's not really a Fantastic Four movie. They could have, just took the story and made, complete unique characters. Would have been a great movie on its own. It didn't need the Fantastic Four to work for its legs, and I think that wound up actually hindering it in the long run because people kept saying, "This is not my Fantastic Four," and it's like, you know what, you're kind of right, but it's not a bad story about people that find a way to bridge a gap to another dimension, and body horror ensues, like the stuff that they show for a guy bursting into flames, another guy melding in with rock, and a third guy getting his arms all stretched out, sort of thing. That's some good body horror. If they had played up that angle, it could have been one hell of a deeply disturbing and exciting movie. But it's Fantastic Four, so they can't go down that route too deeply. But yeah, there was some stuff I liked in there. I like the charisma that they gave Reed Richards. Because most of the time he's portrayed as, a brainy person that just doesn't get people. But he's also pretty much the heart of the Fantastic Four. And so his relationship, as he's growing up with Ben Grimm, was not bad. Not exactly the same way I'm Ben Grimm. Ben Grimm in the comics is actually, a very highly skilled, pilot. Provided you can get stuff in his size now, he's still a great pilot. The issue is just finding stuff that works with his larger physique.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's still great. In this one, no, there's nothing about him doing anything with flight school or anything like that. So they had to figure out a way to get him into the whole bit, because it's no longer a spaceship going up. We need a good person to pilot the spaceship. I know, my good friend Ben Grimm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they got to find another way for him, in there. So I think things were a little different that way, but I can kind of dig how. The young kid, Ben Grimm, saw this crazy kid, Reed Richards, and they wound up becoming friends and, working on a project together for years. It worked, it felt like a real friendship.
Oh, yeah.
Despite there being different people. Johnny Storm and Reed Richards hit it off, immediately, man. It's all of a sudden, bam. Because, well, one, everyone else, was just seeing him as being, the kid of, Franklin Storm. And he was getting hassled by Victor Von Doom and all that, and then along comes this nice guy, and he's like, hey, I need some help over here, and it's like, oh, hey, thank you for kind of treating me like another person, and not just either a hindrance or is a daddy's kid that has to be here. So I felt why they connected so readily and quickly. So it felt like another good it felt like a good mutual sort of friendship, which is not something I ordinarily really see in the comics. I mean, he's the brother-in-law sort of thing is what it is in the comics. I mean, spoiler alert, Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards marries Sue Storm, and so that makes her brother, the Human Torch, the brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
But this one really felt like it was a real good friendship between the two of them. And so Reed Richards really did feel more like the heart of the Fantastic Four and its center than in the other movies, and sometimes like the comics. So that was really nicely done. I really appreciated that. There was some nice attraction between, Sue Storm and Reed Richards, but it wasn't made the focus. It wasn't their burgeoning romance and all that sort of thing. And I appreciate that. It's like, okay, we've seen the story of these people, fall in love, and that story was good and it was fun. But let's not retell it all over again. Let's focus on them, working well together and doing stuff, like that. And it worked. It made room for more of the rest of the story, which I appreciated. That said, once again, they completely botched, Doctor Doom. Admittedly, maybe not the easiest person to write, for. But my God, it should be easier than that, at least to some degree. The voice for the Thing, but didn't seem as deep as it should have. Like when you imagine the Thing, you expect something big and rocky and deep because he's like 7 feet tall of stone, right?
Okay.
They got a bit of a gravelly voice in him, but he always had that sort of thing. But his voice seemed like a higher pitch than I was expected. But as much as I found that to be a little weird, I'm going to let that pass. Because Mike Tyson is a big dude, and when you hear him talk, he wanted to talk like this, and he's got a really nice soft, sweet voice to him. And so, dude, if Mike Tyson can show that as a real-world precedent, I'm going to buy that for the Thing in a movie. So, give it a pass on that one. I think maybe the best part of the movie was the character Franklin Storm, the father and adoptive father of Sue Storm and half the darn team. And that was not a character I had known very much about before. And I really wound up liking the character. Maybe it was really good, work on behalf of the actor, but I really liked this character. And when, spoiler alert, I suppose he winds up, not surviving to the end of the movie, I felt it. So, people gave this movie a lot of flack, but I'm going to put it in the same category as I put that Dragon Ball Z Evolution movie. It would have been better without the name brand. It would have been better without the intellectual properties.
Okay.
If it had just been generic on its own, it would have worked better. And it does have its good points.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how many dwarves would you give it?
I'll give it 8 dwarves.
8 dwarves. And if it had been its own thing, you would have given it more dwarves?
Probably up to 10 or 11.
Okay.
There was some stuff I would have liked to have seen more of, this other dimension sort of thing going on there. But I can understand that they didn't do too much time. It was the other dimension, like Planet Zero, as they wound up calling it, was really much more of a MacGuffin than anything else. So I'm okay with not seeing any more than was strictly necessary for the purpose of advancing the storyline.
Well, you think, if it had been its own movie, and not had to do Fantastic Four, it could have been, the tale of the Planet Zero, and could have featured that more. They
could have called it, Dimension Knots or something else like that. They really could have hyped up the angle of the body horror. I mean, Ben Grimm turns into a large sentient pile of rock.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. That they could really have shown the mental devastation and the incredible he thought for a while he was trapped underneath a bunch of stone. Help me, Reed, help me, you're gonna help me. It's like dude, that's not you under the stone. That is you. You are the stone. Reed Richards, his stuff stretched out and all that as he's unconscious. They really could have shown up the creepy aspect of that sort of thing. What it's like to have your body change on you, not even perhaps willingly. And how what was once feel your forearm right now, everyone out there. That's a pretty decent little forearm you got going on there, isn't it? It's nice and soft.
For our listeners who have both arms,
I assume they've got at least one.
Most of us
move it around, sort of thing, and just think about it for a second. Or any one of your limbs, really. It's just a nice solid little piece of biomachinery here, isn't it?
I do apologize to all our listeners who have no limbs just right now.
But that's the thing. Now imagine the whole thing turning into a strand of wet spaghetti. Where what should be like a bone now winds up becoming nothing but more than like a Stretch Armstrong limb. That could be pretty darn creepy.
That'd be freaky, yeah. Especially if you couldn't control it, it'd be oh crap, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it could be pretty darn bad.
I mean, you can get used to it, but yeah, initially,
the Human Torch winds up self-immolating perpetually. He has to learn how to control it and turn the flames off.
Yeah.
So like that is damn scary. Think about that for a minute. Just how scary it would be to find out that you're always on fire, and unless you can control it, you will always continue to be on fire for the rest of what is a surprisingly long life for someone who is on fire. Like, yeah, that's something you could really have wound up playing up some angles on, and it could have wound up being like making it as just like a really suspenseful, like creepy sort of movie that winds up having superhero aspects to it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, people would like if you made a movie about a guy made of rock, a stretchy guy, an invisible lady, and a fire guy. People wouldn't put two and two together and say,
that's the thing, though.
Hey,
is you could have played it with a lot darker tone, sort of thing. Like instead of just like stretching out, maybe he just like starts like forming himself into like a big old puddle. Maybe he needs like a rather large bucket, unless he can keep control of his own self and like put himself back together.
Okay.
That's like, think about that. Whereas like if you can't control yourself, you are now whatever your like body mass is into like as a liquid.
Oh, and I think I've made this connection before, but I just realized again that it's the four elements: the earth,
yes.
fire, water.
Stanley apparently did not intend for that, at least not consciously, but it does work out very well.
Yeah.
Reed Richards flows his body like water. The Human Torch is surprisingly fire. Ben Grimm is made out of earth. And Sue Storm, with her ability to push things and turn invisible, is the wind.
Yeah.
So it's this classic sort of Greek element style.
Yep.
But that's the thing, it's like
special guest star Greenwood. That's the Asian fifth element.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just depending on which way you want to go, it either works or it doesn't. But it does work for the classical like Greek four element style. But you could have really wound up doing this as like maybe it winds up being that take out the name brand Ben Grimm sort of thing, that he is not a humanoid pile of rock. Like what happens when you lose all like humanoid like sense of shape to yourself? What does that do to your psyche, man? That's pretty messed up. You could add some very interesting things going on there. But you can't do that with them being the Fantastic Four.
Okay, I guess you're not allowed to make things a little different.
You can make things different, but if you take things too dark, then like you're going to catch even more flack.
I mean, like how dark was Deadpool? I mean,
Deadpool was hilariously dark. They still kept the comedy in there.
Okay.
But I'm talking like they could have gone like David Cronenberg, like The Fly, or like do stuff like what was that one with the television again? The New Flesh. Videodrome. You could have done some weird stuff like that, and that could have worked in this regard.
Well, I guess the difference between a happy ending and a dark ending in a superhero movie is the superheroes learn to adapt to, like there might be a moment of crisis when they discover their power or they think that they're very messed up, their lives are completely ruined. But then they learn how to deal with it, and they turn it into a strength, and they become super. And then now this is what they do.
It's like apparently Victor Von Doom survives a year on this other planet. No food, no sustenance. Like the power, like the planet provides them with the power. And what they could have done is like most of them spent a year working for the military. Like Ben Grimm wound up doing stuff, like in the field, and they were prepping for the Human Torch, and they were basically using them as like tools. So you could have had a thing whereby they realized that they don't want to be, like controlled anymore by any force, and they wind up, all leaving off to this dimension zero. And there's your ending sort of thing, is they realize they're not meant for this world anymore because they're no longer a part of this world anymore, and they all, go off to the other world and just find out what it's like to be the new them there.
Yeah, okay. Well, so when you say a dark, you're saying a dark ending.
Not quite as like happy. Everything works out for the best, except for the bad guys. So yeah, like they could have gone like some very different routes, but they couldn't, because as different as the tale was from the Fantastic Four origin story, it had to be the Fantastic Four to at least some degree.
Yeah. Well, here's something else you could, like, if you really wanted that. Here's some, like, I'm still talking about a way of preserving, like having the, because what we're talking about, I think, in the ending is we want to preserve the characters as they are so that we can do a sequel.
Or at least recognize them.
So, yeah, we can, because it's origin stories, so now we have this superhero that we can do other things with. But you could do something like that in, imagine, like, it turns 1,000 guys into stone. And, like, this one guy is the only one.
The ultimate plan for the military.
Yeah.
Is to, turn this process that made them what they are into something that they can turn the entire United States military armed forces
well,
into.
That's what I would do if I was in the military. I'd be like, yes, can we duplicate this? Yeah.
I won't lie. I would try and find a way to reverse it, because not all soldiers really want to do this for the rest of their lives, and not all soldiers maintain proper sanity throughout the din of war.
Yeah, but you can imagine, like, maybe whatever the instigating accident happens, and then, like, a bunch of guys are, like spaghetti wobbly guys, and they like die or whatever, or they go insane, and then somehow Reed Richards is the only one who comes out with some sort of sanity. I think that's a nice dark version, but it still gives us the character at the end of it that we can play with. I don't know.
But that's the thing, though. It's like I really dug some of the weird aspects of it. Like, they come back after the incident, sort of thing. They've been bathed with the MacGuffin, green glow stuff, and things are going weird. And Reed Richards is like, he's hearing Ben Grimm calling out, "You gotta help me! You gotta help me! I can't move! I'm trapped under all this rock! You gotta help me, Reed!" And Reed Richards finds out that his like feet are stuck underneath like a beam sort of thing, they're rubble. But he still finds a way to crawl on over. And it's not until like after he gets really close to Ben that he looks back and realizes his entire body's being stretched out.
Mm-hmm.
And they like, kudos to the special effects team. This looked really creepy in a way that should look really creepy when you suddenly realize, like, oh no, I didn't free myself. My legs are still under the beam. I've crawled across the room and my legs are still there. Most people would wind up like, oh no, I'm bleeding out all over the place because I left my legs behind me. But no, it just stretched out. And it's like, whoa. They really got a good aspect of it. And they really could have hyped up some of that weirdness. Because let's face it, the Fantastic Four look good in the comics, but when you try translating them out to like a real world, things look dang dangerous. Like the Human Torch bursts into flame.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just picturing, like, if one of us just suddenly burst into flame here, we set the couch on fire.
Yeah, how much collateral damage would you do as the Human Torch?
Your whole building might burn down.
You really can't live a normal life anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, after you learn how to control it, you can live.
Well, you're not living in an apartment complex ever again. You got to find yourself like a steel-lined warehouse or something with a lot of asbestos.
Like, does it just sometimes just come on in your sleep or whatever?
Well, that's the thing is they had to train to stop it. Like for a while there, he was just like unconscious sort of thing, laying on a slab on fire, and every once in a while he'd blast out fire every which way, blowing out windows and everything. He was a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And it took him a year to learn how to control it.
I guess you wouldn't have to worry about sunburns.
Well, heck, if the fire ain't burning you, you're doing pretty good any which way.
Mm-hmm.
That said, they also gave Sue Storm some more abilities as opposed to just being pretty. Because I hate to say it, but that's really all she kind of was. Released originally in the comics, she wasn't a smart scientist like Reed. She wasn't a pilot sort of thing. She came along because she loved Reed, and her brother was going along to help fly the ship into space. They gave her good skills. She finds pattern recognition stuff.
Okay.
She's able to find Reed Richards when he's out on the lam by being able to find the pattern of him by knowing him and all that stuff. So it's like, yay! She's smart and competent, and they're not able to just say that. They're able to show it in the movie, which does go along with my preference of show, don't tell. So hooray!
Okay.
And that's always a nice thing. I mean, like, the fact that she winds up going invisible. For a long time, she's just, like flickering in and out of, like, visibility, invisibility. That could have been played up, too. Not as horrible as the others. I mean, like she's not on fire. And she's not composed out of, like Earth all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. But, like all of a sudden, like, not being able to see yourself and just bits and pieces just vanishing around on you. That could be pretty creepy, man.
Yeah. Well, do you remember there was an X-Files episode where a guy got invisibility, and that didn't turn out good for him?
I think he tried to crossed the road and got hit.
Yeah. Yeah, and he died and he was still invisible, yeah.
Well, so that's the other thing is like the other movie I watched this week was Invisible Agent, one of the later sequels in the Invisible Man series, where it's the grandson of the original like Invisible Man, and his his involvement in World War II, because World War II breaks out, and he decides to inject and enlist. He says that's the only condition that America will get the invisibility formula is if they use it on him, because he can't trust it. Like it's like this invisibility stuff messes up. It's more than just like, oh, I can't see it. It does like biochemical changes in you, and sometimes it drives people insane, maniacally insane. But he figures like if anyone's going to have to deal with these effects, it's going to be me. All he really has is like bad nap times. He gains up some sort of like narcolepsy. When he falls asleep, bam, he is down. So yeah. Hooray! He doesn't go evil. But I mean, like it shows just like how effective that Sue Storm could have been if used by the military. An invisible agent in that sort of regard.
Okay.
And she
sure.
she didn't even have to be naked. They got outfit clothes that'll go like change out, and such. The Human Torch, like Johnny, Storm could like not immolate all his clothes every time he flames on.
Right.
If she goes invisible, she doesn't have to be naked for that.
Okay.
So, yay, PG-13.
Wait, did you have to be in the movie, in the Fantastic Four movie?
The original one, there's a bit with Jessica Alba effectively having to strip off her clothes as she's evading the paparazzi.
Huh.
Yeah. All they find is her clothes. Then she's running around naked in New York.
Huh.
There was also, they did a movie like Invisible Woman back in the day, and it was almost not released because some of the censors raised the question of, isn't she naked throughout most of this film? Despite the fact you can't see her because she's invisible, is the concept of a naked lady going around doing things in the city. Was very alarming to them.
Yeah.
So hooray, PG-13 rating gets kept in this case. And it really, like the Invisible Agent, really shows exactly how much espionage you can wind up doing with just invisibility on command. To say nothing of the fact that she can, do force fields and telekinetic sort of projections. So yeah, she could have been like effectively the most capable agent of the three, had they continued to work with the military. So you could have played up a very good aspect of like what it's like to have superpowers, and then like the military finds out about you, because that's the one thing I think they really haven't done with the Marvel universe. Is like, oh hey, people have superpowers. Okay, we'll just continue being in the military over here. Guess we're gonna hunt the Hulk for a few more years, or whatever it is we do. Maybe we'll try and bug Tony Stark for more armor. Poke, poke. How about now, Tony? Poke, poke. How about now? So yeah, they could have really, gone into a different direction, showing how even with good intentions, the military may wind up being a very bad, source for people with superpowers. Played up the body horror, without the name brand, it could have been such its own movie, and it felt at times that. Well, I hate to say it in this term, but it's the only one that comes to mind, that the Fantastic Four IP was almost like a gimp suit on this movie. It restricted and confined the movie from what it could have been. And I kept seeing bits about, this could have been a really good movie. But I know it's not going to go this way because this is Fantastic Four. And then it didn't go that way because it's the Fantastic Four. So...
Because it's family friendly.
What's the thing? Did you ever see any of the bits for the Nicolas Cage Superman that they were going to do at one point?
I did not.
Oh. Spoiler alert, at one point, I think during the 90s, Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman.
Okay, yeah.
Now, when I say Superman, put an image in your head, everyone. Oh, you see that image? You got that? Get it nice and clear. Get it nice and clear. Do a headshot of Superman. What do you see when you see Superman? What sort of headshot do you see, Josh?
A man who is super.
What does his head look like? They describe his facial characteristics, his hairstyle, and all that stuff.
He has a high sloping forehead with a receding hairline, thin hair. He has kind of buggy eyes and a weird, open mouth smile.
Oh, you're just yanking my chain now. The traditional image of Superman is like a square jaw, maybe even sometimes lantern chin sort of style. traditionally, I think he was drawn with the squinty-eyed sort of thing, but the Silver Age is very, very distinctive in his thing. He's got that nice little chin cleft going on. He got the hair, thick, rich hair streaked back in like the 19, I guess it'd be 40s, 50s style, with that little spit curl S going on. No matter how fast he flies back in the Silver Age, he always has that little S curl going on.
Even his hair spells Superman.
Yeah, that was always a nice little thing that they always wound up putting in for him for the Silver Age. I think they still try and do it, but they don't do it as like every time regularly. Like if he's flying like at like Mach 2, he's not going to have that little S curl on him. Whereas in the Silver Age, it's like every time they draw him, bam, that curl's there.
Okay.
So yeah, so he has a very distinctive look, and Nicolas Cage is not that look. But Nick Cage is really into superheroes, and I can respect that, and so he really wants to play Superman if he got the chance.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff I saw was a very big departure from Superman.
Oh, yeah.
And the story would have been about a man, like trying to come to terms with the fact that he's an alien and maybe he doesn't even belong on this planet. And it was less about like being a superpowered person that saves the planet and more about being the search for self.
Okay.
Which, don't get me wrong, I think Nicolas Cage could play a decent superpowered person that has to come to terms with being so incredibly different from the people around you as an allegory for isolationism. This could be a very good, deep movie for Nicolas Cage, and I believe he could do a very good role of it. But I don't think he could do Superman.
Okay.
Because it would be too much of a departure from what Superman is and what he's like.
All right.
And so I felt the same sort of thing with the Fantastic Four remake movie. I'm just going to call it Fantastic now, because I don't want to have to keep giving it the long title. It's just Fantastic. And don't get me wrong, it was a fantastic movie, but it could have been outrageously great on its own.
Okay.
And I think ultimately that's just going to be the lesson I learned from this darn movie, is that the people in Hollywood have to be less afraid. They have to be bolder. Because they had what was a very decent movie on their hands. It could have been an even greater movie. If only they realized, like, this is a good movie, but maybe it's not Fantastic Four movie, and let's just do our own. And that way we don't have to pay copyright stuff or anything like that. Or woo!
Yeah.
And they can forge new territory and do that. Because, like there's a big market demand for superhero movies these days. I don't think anyone can deny that, right? So figure this, is they're continually, going to the well, as it was, finding, stuff like, oh, hey, Men in Black's a TV thing, let's just make that into a movie. Mind you, that took place a little bit beforehand. Say, ooh, this, Kick-Ass thing has been a pretty good one. Let's put that one up as like 2 movies now. Ooh. Definitely, we'll go through all the archives of Marvel and DC, find all the best stories, and put out a whole bunch of movies about that. Yeah. What's wrong with trying to make a superhero movie without the pedigree?
Oh, just invent a whole new superhero?
Make it straight from cloth, man. This is the first time anyone's seeing these superheroes. Tell a story about these superheroes. You don't have to pay the rights for any artists and all that stuff. Just come up with a really good story involving superpowers and action.
The Incredibles.
The Incredibles are somewhat similar. I mean, Dash is the Flash.
You think they're the Fantastic Four, but...
It's kind of a mashup sort of thing, because, Bob, like Mr. Fantastic is kind of, I won't say Superman sort of thing, but he does have the super strength sort of thing. He's like, like the alpha male strong guy. Strong, tough sort of thing.
All right.
Elastigirl is very much a female version of Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's a remix, kind of. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
I get it.
Mind you, there's only so much you can do with, like, coming up with a superpower that's not going to be treading on someone else's toes, so, I'll say that,
Yeah.
But, you should be able to come up with all new superheroes, do some amazing...
What about the one with Will Smith? What was that one?
Hancock?
Hancock, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Hitch was another one. I combined that up. I had Hitchcock for a second.
Different Will Smith movie.
Yeah. Well, Hitch, and then Hitchcock, I guess, is somewhere else for stuff I've been watching. Right. But yeah, Hancock was a very good movie for that reason. Why does this person have superpowers? How does it relate to the other people? What's his story? What can he do? And I loved it. Spoilers on this one, then, I suppose?
Yeah, well, go ahead, yeah.
Superpowers are because they're just like people that were born that way. They've been this way for thousands of years. They're effectively immortal. Unless they find their matching pair, in which case they become more immortal the closer the two of them are together. And in the end, when Hancock is like running away from his other sort of thing as he's grievously wounded, I loved it. It was a very powerful scene. As the farther he runs, the more powerful he becomes, the easier it is to keep running. And that was just an amazingly good scene. I think, like maybe one of Will Smith's best, nonverbal, parts in his entire career. Because don't get me wrong, Will Smith is a good actor, but he's primarily known for a good quick wit and a good delivery of a line. Whereas this was a really good one. I saw desperation. I saw hunger in his eyes, a desire. He has to get away, even though everything he wants is behind him. Sort of thing. Like his friends are there, loved ones are there, man. His life is behind him, but he has to run, and he has to keep moving. If he's going to survive, he has to keep just moving in this one direction away. And I liked it. I think that's one of the reasons why it was such a good film of the year, is because it was its own super thing. I remember seeing one it was like a trailer sort of thing. It was supposed to be turned into its own movie, but it's currently stuck in development hell. So there was a thing. It's not the superhero isn't the protagonist. The superhero is almost the antagonist. It's about like a guy he's a crime guy. He's selling like guns illegally, I don't know, doing other stuff like that, and there's telling like stuff in the news story about a guy who can fly and is immune to bullets, and what he's doing is he's finding these bad guys, out in the street, he's picking them up, flying them up about 30-40 stories, and then letting them go, so they drop to their death. And people are discussing like is this a good thing, is this a bad thing, is he a superhero, is he like a villain, like what's going on with him? And like nobody can stop him. And so it's a tale of like one guy who winds up, he's like on the other side of the superhero. And so I guess it's the villain story about what it's like to be in a world where you're just a mook and there's a person with superpowers and you can't do anything to stop him. I think it would have been a great movie, and it could have told a great independent story about, concepts of morality. Like, let's face it, like the cops, in many cases, their hands are tied. They cannot mete out justice at the speed most people would like, and they have to go through a very rigorous process in order to achieve justice. Because that's, the only way to effectively guarantee justice is actually being met out. Ideally, the punishment should fit the crime, shouldn't be over. But if you have the power to do what you want and enforce your will and your morality upon anyone else, like, would you? Could you? Would you do that? Could you have the sense of self in order to allow yourself to do such a thing? It's a very deep concept of like getting into the mind of what it takes to be like a super person.
What are you giving me the power to do?
You're immune to like small arms fire at least, and you can fly.
I would impose my morality on people. Yeah.
So that's the thing is like what does it do to a person, like, because once you're imposing your morality,
I mean, I wouldn't do vigilante justice and do
murder
what you're
people from 30
40
stories drop, right?
I don't think I'd do that unless I lived in a society that was like
a pretty bad, like double Gotham City bad, right?
Actually, even so, like, yeah, that's not my
I hate to say it,
way.
But in like a double Gotham, sort of situation where you've got people like the Joker. Objectively, you do more good by killing the Joker than by letting him live.
Well, I mean, because, the Joker is a fictional character who's designed specifically to be as evil as he can be. I don't think sort of real life would generate
you could work it as a crime boss, someone who, has an army of lawyers at their disposal and always gets off. They've got police in their pocket. They've got judges that go in there say there's no way this person is ever going to jail despite the amount of crime that they are involved and directing.
Well, yeah. So as a superhero, what I would do in that situation is I would consider like killing him, but I don't think that would actually be the solution. I would probably just
I think
antagonize him.
I think you do bring up a good point, because I believe the final season of Legend of Korra brings up a similar point on that it doesn't really matter, like about who the bad guy is, unless you can change things. Like getting rid of a bad guy just means there's going to be another bad guy popping up.
I mean, I hate to bring Hitler up this late in the podcast, but like if you have a chance to take out Hitler sort of at at the height of his power, say 1940
Well, let's say 1941. So I think things are fully under sway. Everyone's starting to realize just how bad the National Socialist Party really is.
Yeah.
And you can fly. Do you fly overseas? Go pick up Hitler from his staff car. Maybe even pick up the entire staff car. I'll give you some super strength with this. And, just, I don't know, fling him around like a rag doll.
And just end him after playing with him for a while.
Like a cat with a mouse, something like that. Just really let the world know exactly how much you can mess someone up who tries this sort of crowd.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, I might just try and intimidate Hitler. Just be I'm Superman, right? I've got Superman's powers.
We'll call you half Superman. Let's not make you too powerful.
Okay, but in theory, I could fly into the middle of Germany and get hit by anti-aircraft fire and be okay, pretty much.
Or at least fly faster than the anti-aircraft stuff can try and target.
So I'm effectively invincible. That might be something for me to do. Because that would demonstrate that I can basically do anything I want and fly into Germany.
So you would become the superpowered equivalent of the nuclear deterrent? You wouldn't be the biological equivalent of the fat man and little boy that got dropped on Japan to get Japan to surrender. You wouldn't cause untold devastation in Germany just to get Germany to just stop it right now.
I suppose I don't know. I might. I think just from the mythology and the history that I know about what happened in World War II, I think I would basically ally myself with the Allies, and I would say, hey, I'll do what you want me to do. I don't feel like I can make this kind of world-changing decision about just to take out Hitler like that. But if you want, I can, or I could, pick him up and bring him here so you can have him prisoner, talk to him. I think that'd be a useful thing to have, the German Chancellor now is in the Allies as a prisoner.
Let's just call him the dictator. This is basically what he was, right?
Oh, or the Führer, I guess.
The Führer.
Yeah.
So you'd pick up the Führer and just kind of set him down gently and say, London?
Yeah. Yeah, just give him to the Brits.
But what's to say that, Goering doesn't wind up taking over power and becoming, new Hitler?
He might, but, and then I'll go pick him up too and bring him. No, but...
So how many times you got to do this before you turn somebody into, a crater, before you want to try and convince them to knock it off and stop the war?
I don't know how long it would take. I think it would be interesting because you get a little bit of a propaganda boost by having him in the Allies' control, and then... By
reducing his power from Der Führer into Hitler is now in custody?
Yeah, and that way you're not, killing him, so he's not a martyr, and it's not we have to avenge him. And he might still figure that he can have, because he's a strategist of some kind. Some people say not great. He
doesn't know how to play people.
Yeah.
Say what you want about his tactics elsewhere. Do know how to play people.
Yeah, so you put him in the Allies' custody, and then allow they'll
he
probably.
He doesn't seem like such a big, strong, amazing man anymore. People aren't going to listen to him the same way anymore because he's just a dude in prison now.
Well, the thing is, he will attempt to retain as much power as he can. I think this is my theory on what Hitler would do if we captured him.
So that's the thing. Doesn't this sound like it could make for a very entertaining period movie, fictional history?
Yeah.
Wow, man. Here's a few powers, and here's a time period. Do that. Now, why isn't anyone telling that story? Why isn't there anyone trying to make that into a movie?
Well, we're telling it now.
We're telling it as a story, but could you imagine this one on the silver screen?
It'd be cool, yeah, and not
World War weird.
Leaving out Captain America and Superman, who both had their shots at Hitler.
I do believe obviously. Captain America's one of his premier appearances was punching Hitler.
Yeah.
So nice way to start things out, right?
But if you made a sort of another superhero, like a Canadian kid who's just, a Canadian kid's not that different from a Kansas kid actually in that era, in the 50s. Probably.
He's a Manitoba boy.
Yeah.
Not a Kansas boy.
It's pretty much the same, but
just a little cooler.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes are bigger. He's better off with his laser eye vision because he has learning to knock off those mosquitoes as they start coming through the door.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would go pick up Superman and like take him prisoner, or pick up Hitler.
Because I won't lie, like in the after learning, like how bad things were and what like Germany was doing, I would likely set one hell of a precedent to try and make sure people don't try this again, as long as I'm still with a beating heart.
I guess one way you could go is you could be like a, sort of a, I don't know what like an assassin of like a huge, like the entire top structure layer of that entire country and military. You could just take out all the Nazi leaders.
You have like a spy network, and then you got like your invisible agent sort of thing, and then all of a sudden, bam, within the period of a single night, you start taking them all out. Here, there.
Well, I don't even know if you need to have it. Like, again, we're talking Superman powers here, so you just sort of fly around and look. Oh, is that guy in charge? Okay, he's out. Okay, let's see who's giving orders tomorrow, and take that person out. Sort of. I don't know. And
well, that's the thing is, it doesn't always have to be Superman powers. We work with some other super people powers. Like Invisible Woman. She's got some very good stealth things. Can you imagine how paranoid the top brass would wind up being when all of a sudden, like, people just start showing up dead in the night, their throats slit? Bam! Paranoia everywhere.
In a way, this does parallel the idea of the rise of the airplane in warfare. I guess World War I had a bit more of this, but then World War II was like really. Because before World War I, like an airplane flying overhead wasn't that much of a threat, and so you're pretty safe anywhere you were.
Drop something like a bomb on them from up here. They can't shoot up here, can they? No, it's okay. Just find a way to drop a bomb on them from up here. That'd be pretty awesome.
But
so
you develop that technology. Now suddenly you can target, leaders, officers. You can target the Fuhrer unless he has his own air power to counter it, which is what they develop.
They would probably wind up putting, a story, so it'd be like a superpowered versus, Ubermensch story.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, and what if the Germans had their own version of a Superman, and then it's basically.
I won't lie, the original story for Superman was not him as a hero; it was him as a world-conquering villain.
Oh.
So yeah, I guess your third act twist involves Hitler's neck at 180 degrees as der Ubermensch ascends to the head of the German power.
Yeah.
Then it's someone you can just pick up and put down in London. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I suppose. But then it turns into just another version of the sort of what do you call it? The war of
the Winter
technology.
Soldier sort of thing?
Well,
I suppose superhero on superhero fighting.
Well, what's the word for
mutually assured destruction?
No, a technological
arms race.
Arms race. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It's an arms race because
you
get a superpower, then you get a superpower, then you get it, and then you get it. Yeah.
Or who you can ally with for these superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I think this could be one heck of a boss sort of movie. And you know what? We just, there's some sort of stock superhero sort of things, throw them in there, and then just how do they interact in this sort of theater of warfare. I think that's a good story. It doesn't need to be predefined heroes.
No.
You could tell a great story with a good idea that way.
Yeah. And yet at the beginning of today, we did rave about the trailer for the Justice League because we like our known heroes too.
Well, that and Ben Affleck, I think, plays an amazing Batman. From everything I've seen, it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah. He's a good actor, so I'm not surprised.
I expect nothing less of him. If he was a mediocre, Bruce Wayne, I would be sorely disappointed.
I know not everybody loves Ben Affleck, but I like him. Everything.
I liked him originally, and I find him growing on me as time goes on, as he gets to become more experienced and more nuanced a person.
I think he's a better actor all the time. Well, yeah.
But that's the thing is, I think you can have both things going on. I think you can have your defined pedigree stuff, the characters that have been around for 70 years or so, and then I think you can create a good story that doesn't involve somebody who's got that big pedigree, just telling a really good superpowered story with a decent, plot.
All right, sounds good. Social media?
Yeah, how can people get a hold of us?
TheSimulationist@gmail.com is our email address.
That's for really big stuff. If you want to send us like big old paragraphs.
You can send as much writing as you wish there. I will read it all. Thank you very much.
I think there's something like, 10 megabyte limits on that, though? So you like.
Oh, on Gmail? Yeah, there might be.
But effectively, if you're writing, it's effectively unlimited. If you can write 10 megabytes of space, and say, I'll have to send this in 2 emails.
Yeah, I guess if you're sending me a novel, you might want to just put it in your Dropbox and send me a link or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or
if you got that sort of thing, I mean, like, if you have come up with this story of superheroes in World War II, and I won't lie, I have seen a comic. I'll put up a link over on the Facebook site for the link on this one. But if you've written up a novel sort of thing, or if you've written up like a movie play or something like that, by all means link it to us. I would love to see what did you do with these new characters in this story. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of email, I want to shout out to a person who goes by the name of Venger Satanis. So if that sounds like a made up name, don't ask me. That's the name he told me he had. Venger Satanis has written some interesting, fairly dark RPG materials. We don't usually go that dark we've gone some dark places, but we try and keep it PG-13, I guess.
I played Dwarf Fortress. I've gone very dark.
I mean, in the podcast, yes. I mean, in our discussions here today. But Venger Satanis has created some RPG materials that generally applies to any setting. It's sort of setting neutral, but he also has his own version. So I just wanted to shout out, I'm going to put a link to some of his materials in our list, just because he did write us an email, and he's been doing some interesting stuff, and I'm always interested to hear when people are writing RPG stuff.
If nothing else, there's always something very nice to be said about different.
Yep.
There are times I have to change the radio because I just I don't even care if I can really hear what they're saying over on the talk radio on the AM station. I just got to hear something different.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get sick of the same old.
Yeah. He describes himself, and I would agree, because I've looked at some of the. I haven't read thoroughly through it all, but he describes himself as the heavy metal movie that.
Oh,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he describes himself in sort of that vein of very awesome, very visceral. D&D material that's also goes, a little bit, violence, sex, stuff like that.
So that's where the sax and violins are.
There you go. But it's all in good fun, and it's definitely for the adult RPG audience. But I just wanted to shout out to them, since he did reach out to us via email, and that's the kind of reward you can get for us if you do email us. Is I might mention you.
We'll plug you, baby.
I might plug it, unless we get super famous in everybody's emails, and then we won't have time to.
Well, then we'll have to cultivate and find the cream of the crop. In which case, get in early, so I think before we have to, only do select amounts.
Yeah, but I will say, what I've seen of Venger Satanis' stuff, it looks like he's put some time and effort into, presenting a good product. So
very nice. Very nice.
And it's some of it is free, some of it's cheap. It's on RPG now, so like that. Email us. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/thesimulationist. That's our fan page.
That's nice for more medium-based stuff. If you want to send up a quick link, hey, guys, check out over here. It's also a nice area for doing that.
Yeah, you can fit a fair amount of text in a Facebook post there, and you can post on these episodes individually, or I think you can post on the page in general. It shows up on the left hand of the page. I should double check that. I haven't looked at exactly the mechanics of it in a while.
It'll show up. People will be able to see it, though.
Yeah, and so you can get a little bit of community interaction that way, which is always nice. And youtube.com/thesimulationist, same deal. You can do the comments thing. I don't know. It's just another way. If that's your favorite, method of communication. That's
if it's more convenient for you, and we're not going to stop you.
That's right. And I will definitely see it.
We have talked about Der Fuhrer, but we don't try and become Der Fuhrer ourselves. That's how it works for you. That's how it works for you.
Exactly. And if you have itty-bitty tiny little things that you want to say to me, that's for Twitter. What Twitter's for.
Yeah, if you want to say, hey, I think this is a good podcast, keep it on up. Send that to
at Josh_Trelaffin, TRESLAFFIN on Twitter. And in real life, you can always check me out at, if you happen to live in Victoria, BC, or you are visiting, you can come to one of the many comedy shows that I'm at by looking me up. Probably look me up on Facebook, or I'll tweet where I'm going to be. So
I am, on the other hand, fairly asocial at best. So if you find me, that's the same sort of congratulations as finding Waldo.
Well, yeah, that's...
Congratulations.
That's something. Did I forget any of the social media? You can check us out on Patreon. It's not required by any means, but we would certainly love your
We're in the
support.
iTunes store, aren't we?
We are also on iTunes. Most people probably already have found us via iTunes, but in case that's another way that
you... search algorithms over there.
Yeah, it's a useful place to find us, iTunes. And the other thing about iTunes is you can write reviews for us, which would, those things would help us out so much just to get a couple of reviews up there. I haven't checked lately. There might already be reviews, but either way, we can always use more and as many stars as you think we deserve. Other podcaster sites also allow reviews and stuff, so if you have an extra moment there too, that would be super helpful. And I think that's all the things, social media.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on whatever we talked about today? We didn't get to a really main topic.
I think Hollywood needs to learn one of the first basic rules of storytelling once again. Be brave, be bold.
Yeah, all right. Be a rock star.
Well, that's the thing is, I think Kevin Smith does say it best in that it's a weird form of art. For a lot of other forms, like with painting, it's like, okay, I'm going to need an easel, some stuff here, and I'm going to need like $2,000 worth of supplies, and like maybe a month to paint out something for you. Whereas in movies, I only need $20,000 and Ben Affleck. And that's going to be just for shooting the initial stuff. After that, give me a couple, dozen million after that, and we'll start establishing up some real stuff.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about movies is they take a lot of, big movies take, a few hundred people,
At least, yeah. I mean, some of
each one is an artist in their own right.
Some
Costumers.
of those movie stuff I've been seeing, I would not be surprised if the Grand Tally comes in at 1,000 people for some of the more highly animated 3D stuff.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of people.
Animators, concept artists, and
then all your tech specialists to make sure all the equipment's working properly too. It does add up, sort of thing. So yeah, they're big things.
Yeah, all your camera. I wonder if how movies have sometimes they'll have one or two screenwriters, and kind of that's it. I wonder if movies shouldn't sort of consider, because writing is often criticized in movies more than sort of technical aspects.
Why didn't they just do X instead of Y?
Yeah, I wonder if movies really could stand to have larger writing staffs on them, or maybe that would just get in the way. I don't know.
Well, you'd have to find that nice mix where every new person coming in is adding something versus too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
And admittedly, according to a lot of people's complaints, is some of the people stirring the pot in the story brew were the executives who have no business, trying to dictate this sort of stuff, and they wind up messing up the story. Looking at you, Matrix sequels.
I do wonder, though, if executives might have less opportunity to do that if there was, a more structured team of, writers, and they were, more... a more critical mass of writers to sort of push against the executive and say, yes, you have that idea, but we have these 20 people who are
I don't know if 20 people would work. I could see maybe a group of 6, especially for an ensemble cast like the Justice League, in which case everyone would have a focus of what their character sort of thing that they have to focus on to make sure everyone weaves a good story where it's okay, now is it really telling a story about everybody, or is it really about these 2 people plus 4 semi-cameo sort of appearances going in?
That's true. Do you know, have I taken you to...
In which case it might wind up being just a variant of what you saw earlier this week for Harmonquest.
Yeah. Have I taken you to Paper Street Theater show yet?
Not yet, sadly.
Okay.
My schedule tends to be fairly bad for that sort of thing.
Yeah, one of these days we'll maybe when a spot opens up, we'll have to go down there, or you can go when it's convenient for you. But yeah, I've noticed in an improvised what they do is the improvisers are the writers because they're writing it as they go. So yes, indeed, each person I'm responsible for my character. And I know exactly what they would do in this situation, so that I get to write that. And you also, of course, in addition to that, you're allowed to make offers about what someone else's character is doing or what happens.
And I think that would play very well in, the bullpen sort of style of, a bunch of writers giving up, a proper polished script.
Yeah, yeah.
So, hey, you think Batman would do this? It sounds kind of like it, but what if he does it more like this style? Okay, I can work. We can make the whole thing work, and the entire scene works out really nice that way.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I mean, like you got to be bold. Like just because you have the intellectual property rights to be the Fantastic Four doesn't mean if you write a really good story, it has to involve the Fantastic Four. Maybe you can say like, it kind of started out as a Fantastic Four movie, but then we went into a different direction that the Fantastic Four really wouldn't work well in, so we had to make it our own thing. And now that we got we leapt off the platform of Fantastic Four, we're really telling a great story all our own.
That would be fantastic if that happened.
Subiism. Woo.
I think Hollywood is kind of okay with how things turned out generally. Like, I don't know how big of a hit
they're not making a sequel like they planned.
Fantastic Four was. I don't know if they're ever going to do things like. I don't know if there's a path to where you say you want to go. I know it happens from time to time. Like every once in a while, somebody's like, I can do this and do this, and they're inspired. I don't know. Well,
I mean, Cabin in the Woods. If you listen to like the director's stuff, Joss Whedon, was mentioning about how he had the two. He got himself like a hotel room with the other guy, and they were writing it out together. And so they're going back and forth, and it's like, hey, do you think that the bullets are going to do anything against the werewolf? I was just thinking that too. They do nothing because these guys don't have silver bullets, right? It's, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, okay. And so yeah, they're working back and forth, and they're feeding on each other. And that's the thing is that's what you really need for the good story is the writers feeding on each other's ideas to help grow strong. Just because you have that, this is where you start doesn't mean that's where you have to finish. Sometimes like the creation of a story is in itself a story.
Yeah, I think truly great writers and artists will be able to seize those moments and change them, but not everybody's going to be able to do that. I suppose it's something.
Not everybody's Joss Whedon.
Yeah, it's something to aspire to or to sort of wish for, but yeah, I think it's hard to achieve in real life. But I guess what we talk about great movies, and we talk about the greatest movie ever. Like, if you wanted to make, the greatest work of art picture ever made, well, the bar is pretty high, but maybe it's possible. I don't know.
Especially if you're thinking fast enough, thinking hard enough, and thinking creative enough.
Yeah.
And know your audience.
Yeah, but and sometimes you just want to get that paycheck and like get that movie made, and because a lot of the times the writers are just they're writing for.
It's there because it's a job, not because it's a passion.
Yeah.
The saddest fact of society.
Well, and I don't want to portray that in a downer light either. Because,
well, I hate to say it, but that's kind of how most people operate. It's not their passion; it's their profession.
Well, I mean.
Just because they're artists, just because they're writers, just because they're directors doesn't mean it's any different. It has to be different because, it's the art of movie making. It's not, no, sometimes, yeah, it's profession as much as passion.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you'll hear from people I'm not to speak for everybody in the industry, in the movie industry, because I don't have that experience myself, but sometimes, I mean, it is their passion, and they do a good job on it, but oftentimes like those sort of decisions are out of their hands, or it's very you're supposed to do your job, and they feel very grateful to be able to work in a creative industry like the film industry, but maybe this particular job is not quite as free or glamorous as another one might be, so you just do it to do it. And
until you find that spot to leap
at the end of the day, you're working in the movies, it is a good job, and it's
build that resume, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Get that networking going in, make those connections, make those friends, and then when you get everything together, bam, then you make your passion.
Yeah, so I don't want to portray it as just all sort of a depressing reality of just slogging through these terrible movies, when in fact it can be a very fun process, and also it'll vary from person to person.
Yeah. There are some people that are never going to be happy no matter what job they've got. And there are some people that'll be happy, shoveling pig stink.
And people like you and me, hopefully, our job is just to talk about what other people are doing.
Well, so I think they're happy to look at what we're doing, what we're doing, but what they're doing. Because I mean, like if you created something that was a passion piece, wouldn't you like people like talking about what it meant and the aspects of it, as opposed to I saw the movie, it was great. What's going on next? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I had worked on
truly digesting their work of art as opposed to just eating it and going.
Yeah, if I had worked on the Fantastic Four, I suppose I might want to. Maybe next step we should take is like find somebody who will do an interview with us, because I'd be like, well, they've got some things right, but also there's a couple things that were different, or we couldn't have done that
just
because
plain
of this
wrong.
constraint.
I'm going to put Victor Von Doom again there.
Yeah, so I do wonder if they would have something to say. But at the same time, like our podcast is is just two guys conversing, talking. Two guys talking.
No,
about
we do more than talking,
like.
man. We conversate.
That's all right.
We hope you've enjoyed our conversations.
I guess we should sign off, eh?
I've been Ryan Kirky.
I've been Joshua Levin.
You'll hear from us again in 7 days.
And send money on Patreon.